Cool. So I am Rory Clifford. I'm the interactive manager at Northern Screen. For folks who haven't met me before, I lucky enough to work in Northern Screen and look after supporting the video game and immersive and anything kind of in between industries in Northern Ireland. I primarily look after funding, but I do a bunch of stuff around supporting skills development, education, and culture. I also manage the Pixel Mill co-working space here in the Omo Baths. Today, specifically, I'm going to talk about minigame funding and then funding in general, and then I'll touch upon other wee bits and pieces around the Pixel Mill and our skills fund, just because it's a good opportunity to share what things we're doing. First of all, minigame. There we go. Sorry, flip the Northern Screen for you guys who've never engaged with us before. So Northern Screen is the national screen agency for Northern Ireland. We are all about making Northern Ireland the best screen industry within the UK and Ireland. We've got three core areas that we work across: economic, which is around having the strongest screen industry outside of London in the UK and Ireland within 10 years. That's probably 8 years old now, that statement. We also have a strong effort we put into around education, where we try to have the best screen education. So promoting the teaching and development of skills around film, TV, video games and animation within secondary school and primary school. And our cultural remit is around celebrating the various different forms of screen culture within Northern Ireland and celebrating all the different voices within that, both here and away. Today, I'm going to talk about minigame and what we're trying to do with it. Primarily, minigame is aimed at new companies and teams. If there's a question, it's about finding new teams and new companies who've never released a game before. So we have current programs such as Platform, and the kind of entry point into Platform is the team or people within the team should have at least released one game professionally previous to joining Platform. But we want to build that step in before to give people who are new. This could be graduates, people moving in from different sectors, people who may already be freelancing in the games industry and want to form their own company, an opportunity to kind of get their first foot on the ladder, and also just figure out how they can work together. And we're really interested in teams. We're not necessarily picky about any genre or platform or game, but we're very, very specific. We want to find new teams and how they work together. The goal is to self-publish and complete a game within 6 months. It's going to be split into two phases. There's a prototype vertical slice stage for 6 weeks, and then production. And as I say, any genre, any platform. And then it's £24,000 split up across two phases. So the vertical slice stage as a prototyping, vertical slice, and then the larger chunk for production. Why are we doing this? We want to encourage those who want to start running a video game business to take the opportunity to have a go. We understand 6 months and £24,000 isn't the greatest budget or timeline available, but what we're aiming to do there is really to help teams develop their internal creative and development processes. We ultimately want teams to get comfortable working together, know the types of games they want to make. And why we feel this is important is because we want to help start building credibility with studios and developing a track record. The feedback I get quite a bit from studios when they're pitching to publishers or third-party finances, like those folks who will invest in projects are always asking, okay, what's the team? Yes, the idea is good and it's interesting and potential has market value, but what's the capability of the team? Does it have a track record? Have they worked together before? Are they basically able to deliver on this project? So we're trying to use minigame as a first step towards teams developing those processes and that credibility and ability to deliver. And ultimately, we want to give teams a chance to develop a range of ideas they can work on potentially in the future. As game studios, probably the most valuable currency you guys have when you're out there is your ideas for games. So we want to create a space where you can develop those ideas or start working towards figuring out what type of games you as a new studio want to make. That helps you kind of define your style, what direction you want to go, and what areas you want to focus on. Again, with that kind of constraint around funding, as well as the length of time that we're asking, 6 months, we're asking you to focus tightly on those types of games you want to make. So you're not going to we understand there's constraints about what you can make within that time frame, but we want you to be able to kind of start working towards the types of games you want to be able to release in the future. And I kind of want to talk through like examples of games that I kind of think off the top of my head that maybe be an idea of what you can make. Like I say, it's a concise game that can be played within an afternoon or a couple of hours. It could be an endless runner, or it could be a short narrative game. But like these are some games that kind of pop out to my mind when I think of games that you can pick up and play in the afternoon that kind of have simple mechanics but are engaging to folks, and they kind of set a tone for a particular company, like Mini Metro from Dinosaur Polo Club. You look at Mini Metro, and they have the most recent game, Mini Motorway, and you see the connections between the games in terms of the style of game, their artistic style as a company, but also the kind of mechanics, and it's something that they can build upon. But again, very simple, and something that kind of pulls people in. Or you go from more a narrative point of view, like Donut County can play it a couple of hours. It's got a really interesting kind of story, really quirky. If you want to go down the narrative approach, like what type of game can you make that can be played in an hour, 2 hours? Like we're not really looking for like a 60-hour RPG type game, because it's not realistic what you're going to be able to make in that time. But within the constraints of Minigame, you'll be able to create a game which is gives a good idea of the taste or the style games that you want to make. Along that, or if you want to do kind of simple like mobile games, like all those adventure, like super stylistic, really simple input, but really engaging gameplay, and like a couple 5 or 6 mechanics to really kind of keep people hooked, and just using kind of daily challenges to keep people engaged. Again, not overly complicated from like input point of view, but again, this is type of things that we're kind of hopefully framing people to think of, like keep something simple, something that people can enjoy in the afternoon to pick up, and something that is easy to kind of engage with straight away. And like on the other kind of higher end of the kind of short game genre, like a short hike, like this is super ambitious. That's a super ambitious project, even for a short game. But again, you can do a narrative game within a narrative game which has interesting mechanics in the short game mini game genre. But again, it gives you an idea thematically what we're looking for in the sense of mini game. And I find one like Bad North, again, really tight mechanics, really easy kind of to figure out what's going on there. It's effective. I know it's a real time strategy, but it's got a very like simple rock paper scissors kind of mechanic of how you kind of face off your different troops against the invading troops, and interesting kind of small ways to upgrade them. So thematically and kind of tonally, that like the size of scale of games that we're looking for, hopefully that kind of gives a bit of a guide. Like I'm not saying these are the type of games you should make, but like hopefully that gives you an idea of what in my head what the type of games that we feel people should be able to at least look at towards or be inspired by when making these type of games. Not necessarily that these are the games that we expect people to make or we want people to make. It's just these are things that kind of popped out in my mind when I think of like mini game or types of short games that people can enjoy. But yeah, before I jump on and talk about other bits and pieces, was there any questions around minigame that people want to ask? Will they have me on this kind of point? I'll go back to this here. Any questions around like the minigame, the structure, or the application, or we expect things to go or hope things to go during the program? I'll take silences. Okay. The other side with minigame as well, we see it as like the first step that we can work with studios. People make them in the mini game, make their first game, and then move on to the next project. And that could take in different forms. That you may come back to us to Nora on screen and ask for funding or for a particular project, or you may join another program like Platform later on, because at that point you should have a game released, and then you should be in a state where you have a track record, release the game, and makes you eligible to apply for Platform. But if this is just the thought process that we're hoping that we can engage with people over a long period of time. And maybe the opportunity after Minigame is the Screen Fund, and this is really just to give people an overview of what the Screen Fund is. If you've never engaged in Northern Ireland Screen before or know what the Screen Fund is, it's our kind of open fund where we take applications from studios who are looking to develop like a prototype or a vertical slice to pitch to publishers, or it's also open to companies who are planning to self-publish, depending if they can make the scales of budgets work. And the Screen Fund is really split into two pots. There's development funding and production funding. And development funding is really around that kind of prototype vertical slice funding. And there's kind of three different levels there with various different budgets. So up to £10,000, NI Screen can fund 90% of the project, so a maximum of £9,000 with £1,000 in kind or cash from the developer. There's the next level, which is from effectively 10,000 up to 20,000, which is 75%. That should read, sorry, that says 9,000 and 5,000. That should be 15,000 from NI Screen and 5,000 from the developer in cash and in kind. I'll make sure to update that when I put the slides through the Keelan. And then the final one is the budget. From 20,000 to 100,000, NI Screen will match 50%. So it's up to 100,000 from NI Screen and up to 100,000 from the developer. But at this level, we expect that match to be that 100,000 to be match funded. So either funding sourced from a publisher or from a third-party financer or investor, and that's what we use. Development funding is really around helping projects get to your prototype as a vertical slice funding, and you would hopefully have a prototype vertical slice, take it to a publisher pitch, hopefully secure some production funding. Ideally, in that situation, you would hopefully secure funding to fully fund your project. But in cases where there may be a gap between what a publisher can fund the project with and what you believe the project budget to be, Northern Ireland Screen can step in as a production funding partner. So we actually have production funding where we can fund 20% of a production's budget up to a maximum of £500,000. And that's basically a case where, for example, so you have a project, you come to us and you use some of our vertical slice prototype funding to get the project off the ground. You take it to a publisher and you say to the publisher, well, we feel the budget is 600K to make this. And the publisher's like, well, we can only put half of 500K in it. Then Northern Ireland Screen can turn around and go, well, we can fund 20% of that 500K. So, which is 100K, which gets you up to 600,000. So that's where our production funding comes into. One thing I will say, and you may read this on our website, all our funding is a recoupable development loan. So we hope that once the project goes into production, or if it goes into production and sales, the developer will eventually pay the funding back to Northern Ireland Screen. The reason why we do this is that the funding is public funding, so it's effectively the people of Northern Ireland investing in your project. And once the project begins generating sales and so on, we hope developers will start paying back the development and production funding put into the project. I'd like to state that it's not like a loan from a bank where you have to worry about will come knocking at some point in the future asking for money to be paid, but it's just to make people aware that it's a loan and it's something that we hope and expect once projects go into production and their sales generate that studios will start paying back Northern Ireland Screen. But this isn't something that we chase people for necessarily. I say necessarily at all. The one caveat for all this is dependent on the availability of funds. So depending, basically with Screen Fund as a set amount, and throughout the year we fund a number of projects, and depending on how busy we are, there may be less funding in the actual the pot. This is very conscious at the moment because we're coming to the end of our 4-year cycle. Northern Ireland Screen is funded every 4 years, so we're currently funded from 2018 to 2022, and then that renews to 2022 to 2026. So funding can be a bit tight at this point just because it's been busy and coming towards the end of the cycle, but it doesn't mean people can't come and have a chat with me about projects and how that works. Actually, before I move on to the platform, in terms of applying for funding, the process is that people contact me, we have a chat about your project, and what we kind of expect to see, because we are a commercial fund, we want to see projects where people have shown that there's commercial potential for the project, that you went and taken your idea for a game and went, well, we feel that there's an opportunity in the strategy genre for video games, where we feel that these types of mechanics are really interesting, but could be really super interesting to people if the setting was in, I don't know, it's based on a farm. And people show that there's a potential market and audience for that game. And that's through either just doing some research and look at the kind of the players playing in that genre, or it could be there might be an existing following to a developer or someone on the project already. So that's when we say it's the stream fund, it's a commercial fund. And so we're trying to look at the commercial potential of the project. And not necessarily we expect the project to do to sell hundreds of millions and hundreds of billions of copies. We just want to see the project, or the studio at least, take steps forward in terms of their development. Before I move on to platform, anyone any questions around the screen fund or what that's about?
Yeah, I think there's a few questions in there, Rory. First of all, Michael asked, how many companies will be brought onto the minigame program?
Oh, it's up to 2.
And what size of teams would you be looking for the minigame program?
A minimum of 2. We don't really. So there's always comes up the question about solo developers, and again, this is something that you'll see across the industry with publishers and even like investors and stuff. When they look at a project or look at a team, they will look at the makeup of the team, and like based off them trying to manage the risk on a project, like having just a solo developer by themselves means the project can be quite risky, because if the sole developer for whatever reason steps away from the project, then the project kind of stops there. So if it's just a solo developer, we ideally for minigame we want 2 people, a minimum, if not 3. Now that 2 or 3 could be a mix of the company owner and a couple of freelancers they work with, or friends that they work with quite regularly. So for example, the company A is applying for minigame, but they have 2 people associated to the applying as part of that company, but only one person in the company is named as a company director in Companies House. That's okay, but as long as there's at least one person associated with the company applying, that's okay. But yes, minimum of 2 people, just because it's easier in the long run as a developer to have, that support beside you to make the project. Any other questions there?
Sorry, yeah, just one other one there on that. Are any of these available? Oh, wow, sorry, that was just a question there around solo developers. Are all these funding packages limited to game development only, or are any of them available for funding game-related technologies that, for instance, could be sold in the Unity store?
These funds at the moment, minigame is purely on content. If you're making a product or tool, generally we only fund content, but come have a chat with me and we'll have a chat, because if you're making a product which maybe demonstrates the ability of your tool for a plugin for Unity, we can look at that. But primarily we're all about content. Now I'm currently working on another funding call which looks more at not just content but also tools and stuff around that type of thing. So if I can't see the chat at the moment, so apologies whoever's asked that question. If you want to give me a shout after this, I have a chat with you, because there may not be opportunity through Northern Screen, but we also have other partners like Future Screens, where your project may actually sit more comfortably because they fund more creative technology than we do.
Yeah, I think that's all the questions are in so far.
Cool. So we'll talk about Screen Fund. So you go in Minigame, you release the game, you could apply for Screen Fund next year if all going well, and that's all good. Or next option is platform. Like we hope that we're on platform again. Just to take a step back, Minigame, I hope to be running Minigame continually. So the way platform is run twice so far, we hopefully run Minigame continually. So it'll come around at least once a year, and so give people an opportunity, new people to the industry, an opportunity to apply for it. But you may complete Minigame, you may publish a game, and you're looking for that next step. And an opportunity is platform, which is a slightly bigger in scope and scale of a program where we want to take teams for 12 months, a larger pot of funding across 3 phases. There's a more intense prototyping phase, which is last about 6 weeks, and there's 12 weeks of vertical slice, and then roughly around about 24 to 28 weeks of production. But we also give a lot more kind of on-hand support. So market attendance, we support studios go to the different markets. This is virtually at the moment, but in reality, we would take people to like Gamescom to go meet potential publishers and stuff. And then also there's mentor support, which I'll talk about later on, user testing and trainees support through like art programming and community management. Again, this is a program where we're trying to help studios make the next step. And again, the goal is self-publishing. There's different feelings around self-publishing, but we encourage studios to work towards self-publishing because at the end of the day, if for whatever reason a project may not secure a publisher or funder, it still has value to go out there into the market. And even if it goes out into the market and doesn't sell gangbusters, there's still value that you've released a game and shown the ability to deliver a slightly more ambitious game, again, which may help in the future when you're speaking to potential publishers and financiers for your next project. But yeah, so that's platform. That's also another option. Any questions around platform before I shoot on?
I'm not sure if platform specifically.
Or
there's a few general questions around NIGD's funding. Somebody from Slido said, is there a set amount of sales that need to be met before NIGD start asking for returns on the funding?
No, it's done by a case-by-case basis. So no, it's done by, there's no hard and fast rules. We'll discuss that with developers as we go along.
Yeah. I think you kind of touched on this earlier, but someone asked, what are the limitations of who can be in a team?
Well, there's no limitations really. Can anyone be in a team? Like, as long as you have the ability or the experience or the ability to make a game, that's all that we hope for, expect. But beyond that, because again, comes back to the point of, if someone turned up and says, I want to make a game, but they have no experience at all, or like, when I say no experience, I mean they've not shown any kind of track record of making games in their own time. Like, you could be a hobbyist who's worked in the modding community, or you may be just someone who's a hobbyist who's just been dabbling in Unity and you want to apply for funding to try and take the next step, that's fine. But if I had Joe Blogs off the street going, I want to make a game, but they've shown no engagement with making a video game previously, then that's a more difficult proposition in terms of like them for applying for funding. But there's no limitations on who. Ideally, well, the only limitation is that the studio is in Northern Ireland. This is a Northern Ireland fund. The studio should be Northern Ireland. With development funding, we understand that people may be working with freelancers who may not be based in Northern Ireland, which is fine. But we want the studio at least to be in Northern Ireland and the majority of the funding to be spent in Northern Ireland.
Yeah. That kind of leads on to then, well, there's two sort of similar questions here. One being, considering that there might be folks interested in funding who are already in existing employment, is it possible that teams can consist of part-time workers? And then sort of similar to that, would these opportunities be open for students who might want to use these to employ themselves for a placement year?
Students on placement year, no. Minigame, we're more interested in graduate, but no. Our screen funds for people who are out of full-time education. Now, I would ask students who are interested in, if they're thinking of running their own studio on their placement year, to come have a chat with me, because maybe there may be other support I can give there around either, this is all COVID, all that jazz, like is it access to co-working space here in the Pixamill, access to mentors. There's a bunch of other support I can do there. So if there are some students who are looking to do their own project during their gap year or their work placement year, come have a chat. But generally, it's for people who are out of full-time education. And then what was the first question again, Keelan?
Yeah, it was considering that there might already be folks interested in funding. Considering there might be folks who are interested in funding who are already in existing employment. Is it possible that teams can be part-time workers?
Screen fund, yes, but I would caveat that it's difficult. I'm saying this from experience because, like, I've started and failed at running a game studio. Having everyone working part-time can be a challenge because trying to shift your attention to your own game outside of your normal working hours can be difficult. Now, if you're a freelancer and you're able to kind of balance your week, that might be slightly easier, which is fine. So it's not a hard no. It's come have a chat with me. With Minigame, I know in Minigame we say it's full-time, but we understand that people within companies on Minigame may have their own kind of freelance gigs on the side and working on it. So when we say full time, you're committed to the full 6 months and delivering the game. And we understand that people may have maybe a team of freelancers who are on this, and they may be doing freelance work on the side. That's okay, but there will be commitments expected of people in Minigame in terms of starting up for kind of check-ins and stuff. So that's what we mean there. But Screen Fund part time, that's fine. But we'll have to check and have a conversation just to make sure, because we want to make sure people are able to work on it properly, but it's open to discussion.
Cool. Just one last question there around the teams is, can you give some advice on the criteria on which teams will be selected?
It's just being able to cover all the bases. So you have the skill sets to make a game. So do you have build a game and run a business. So are the areas of game design, programming, art, and business development, the four kind of key areas, and production, which is producing, covered by the skill sets in there. I'm not expecting all that to be covered, but if the key kind of roles of maybe programming and art are covered out, that's good. And then we can talk about the other kind of three areas as you're going on Minigame. But the team should have the capability within it to deliver the game. And primarily, that's from a kind of practical point of view. But then we also want to see people who have a knack or a talent for coming up with game ideas and be able to articulate them either verbally or in a written form. Games they want to make and also show an understanding for or an appreciation for the market, for the game industry in terms of like what type of games might be popular at the moment or what type of games, where's the gap within the industry. Like there's a lot of strategy games at the moment. Do we looking at something that's around platforming games within this type of the setting? So a bit of commercial or market awareness and able to kind of justify their game, back up their game ideas with the reason why they could have commercial potential.
Cool. That's all on that side now.
Cool. I wanted to touch upon a couple other things. Why I have people here, which may be useful. The Screens Fund, the Skills Fund, sorry. This is open to individuals. So by individuals, this could be a freelancer working in the games industry, or you could be a fully employed member of the games industry or the wider screen industry in Northern Ireland. And it's our way to help develop individual talent. So this isn't something that a company would apply for, it's the individual. And basically we'll help folks with their development and skills. So it's a funding award of up to 75% for the cost of doing a course or a program to develop new knowledge of up to £2,000. So for example, say you're an artist and you want to do the Unity Professional Artist Exam certification, we could look at funding 75% of like that exam, or if you're getting the course materials that there as well. Like that's 75%. So for example, if it's £1,000, Northern Ireland Screen will contribute 750 quid, but then the other 250 hours comes from the individual. Or if you're working for a company, you can turn around the company and go, would you be able to match pay and fill in the rest? We want to make people aware of this. And you can apply for this as many times as you want. It doesn't need to be, it wouldn't be all in the same time within the same year, but you can use this multiple times across your career. You may be starting out and you may see an interesting course. I know Blender may be running an interesting course on how to do rigging within Blender, and you want to explore that on a deeper level. And later on, you may want to do a leadership course. You may go, well, I'm running a team of 3 or 4 people. Like, how do I do that? Or you maybe want to look at business development, sales skills. Maybe do something through Queen's or University of Ulster. So there's an option there for skills funding as well, and it's open to anyone working in the industry, freelance, or a member of staff. And it's based on the individual. And to apply for the skills fund is really just email Paula or myself the details of the course. But if anyone wants any more information about that, I can happy to discuss after as well.
Sorry.
Questions? Sorry, go ahead.
Oh yeah, I was just going to say, yeah, we've a question from Rebecca. I think I assume it's about skills fund anyway. Would this be available to people studying a part-time master's degree in a relevant subject?
To cover the master's course degree fees, not sure. But it's generally for people who aren't in full-time education. So if you're working part-time, it should be fine. But I would double check that with Paula. But email Paula or myself, or follow up with me after, and we can discuss it with Paula and figure it out. But we try to be as flexible as possible.
We've just another question there on students. I think more general, but what do you see as the pathway for students to break into the industry, given the history of students starting companies here, for example, Coffee Box, if these opportunities aren't available to students?
Well, with the way the industry is going, studios are growing more and more, and so hopefully there'll be more opportunities for more junior level positions within companies as they grow. Orion Screen runs a number of trainee programs as well. So we have the Pixamel trainees, where we support people on training contracts for up to 18 months to 2 years, depending. So those opportunities come up at least once a year. Is that there? And then of course, the studios grow as well. If people want to go down the business route, we don't necessarily say, look, we will turn our nose up at graduate teams. Minigame is there to support graduate teams. So that's what there's for. Coffee Box came from Transfuser a number of years ago, and it took them to get a number of years to get to where they are now. So we're definitely not against student teams. So there's also the option. But all I can say as a student, if you're still at university and if you're a number of years ago, take the opportunity where you have the time and headspace to network, like the NIGD Dev Network, which Galen and the rest of the folks on that committee are running, is a great opportunity to connect locally, but also take the opportunity to connect outside of Northern Ireland as well. There's the likes of Game Jobs Live, remote, unlike Colin McDonald, which offers a bunch of remote jobs as well. So there's also those opportunities as well. The games industry is becoming more flexible towards working with people who are not necessarily based in the same city that the studio is based. So don't be afraid to look at that there as well. And things come up all the time. If anyone wants to have a chat about the industry on a deeper level, be happy to have a conversation and help people as much as I can. But yeah, so there's plenty of opportunities. Hopefully more opportunities come up as the industry grows. Orion Screen will always be trying to support junior level positions where we can, either through our full-on training programs or through the different kind of funding programs available for companies. But yeah, if anyone has any questions about that after, feel free to follow up with me.
Yeah, that's all the questions that are in there for now.
Cool. And like, I can't not talk without about funding without with the Pixamel. I don't know if many folks have had an opportunity. I know some of our trainees on the call, and some of them actually haven't had the chance to be in the Pixamel. But the Pixamel obviously is a space we have in the normal BAVs. It's a great space to be working in. The cupboard that I'm sitting in at the moment is based in the Pixamel. I just want to say to folks, like, anything that's put on through Northern Screen publicly that's advertised is available for anyone to attend, including freelancers as well, so working within the sector. So I just want to stress that, like, if you see workshops, we have a number of workshops hopefully planned this month and another one in September, which is open for anyone to attend. And I encourage these folks to sign up. We don't necessarily expect as company owners and company owners to attend. So it could be, you could be a freelancer, or you could be a junior member of a team or a team lead. you're very welcome to come along. The Pixmill itself, for you to know, we offer desk space for companies. It's a free co-working space for people who can work out of. We do have the option of hot desking. We opened it up for hot desking. However, COVID at the moment has kept that on hold because we have to keep the capacity within the Pixmill to a certain number, and it's difficult to fit in people for hot desking. But hopefully in the future, as that eases, we'll welcome more people for hot desking. But there is meeting rooms. So if you, for example, say you're a new team and you're trying to figure out, oh, we want to have a chat about Minigame, or you're a new student team and you want to work on a project in your own time, we have meeting rooms which people can book during the day, during the week, which I'm happy to people to access. We also have mentors as well. We have 5 mentors, 3 kind of full-time at the moment, that call into the Pixmill virtually once a month, covering marketing, publishing, production, and game design. And people, freelancers or junior members of teams or students, you're either going to go on their placement year or on their placement year or graduating, are very much welcome to come and meet the mentors. Usually what happens is I'll send an email and people can book in for an hour session and they can discuss general industry or particular projects, but it's very much open to anyone. And I'd like to reiterate that. And then going back to workshops and training, if you see anything advertised on the NI Screen website or the Pixmill website that's publicly advertised, it's open to anyone to come along to, and I encourage people to do that. And hopefully as things open up, there'll be more. And look, we work closely with NIGD to do more as well. So there's plenty there. But yeah, the Pixmill is a space for anyone in the games industry. You don't necessarily need to be a company working in the co-working space, but if there's a way I can help out with meeting rooms, we recently got we partnered with Barclays and they've provided us with a very high-end desktop PC, which people may want access to, which may be useful for running renders or want to do some experimentation with Unity or Unreal. Again, come have a chat with me. We'll see if we organize access to that there. But yeah, the Pixmill is there for anyone and everyone within the games industry. And like, if you're not sure, ask me, and if we can make it work, we'll make it work. If we can't make it work, we'll come back to it at a different time. But I just want to make sure people know it's a space for anyone. I know it's questions, but is anyone any more questions about that, or any questions in general?
Well, we just had a question there about recording, but yeah, I'll post the link in the NIGD and Discord and the Pixmill Slack afterwards. No other questions at the moment, but if anyone has any questions, just drop them in and
cool. What I will do,
read them out.
Where's the chat? And I'll check in. Here's my email address or the screen. Okay. There we go.
Yep. Nothing to do at the moment.
That's it, folks. And just reiterate, like anything you see, Minigame might not be for you or the Screen Fund, or you're just working within the industry. There's always something for anyone working at any level within the industry in Northern Ireland Screen through the Pixmill. So if it's skills fund for those who are wanting to take the next step in their development within the industry, or if it's an opportunity to come in the space and work as a company or as an individual once we open up hot desking. But look, it's a resource there for the industry as a whole. And I just encourage folks, if you're not sure, to reach out and have a chat with me, and we'll see what we can do, and we'll go from there. Cool.
That's great. Yeah, I think that's everything for now. Don't see any other questions through there. Just want to remind everyone about the AMA coming up on Wednesday, 3 o'clock, where you're, I think, being joined by Nicola. Yeah.
Yep. Will be Nicola Lyons, who's the welfare officer at Northern Ireland Screen. Will be joining me, and I think you've someone else as well, Keelan.
Yeah. Dom Shaw, the EDI lead at Yuki, is also going to be along, just to answer any questions about how studios can improve their equality, diversity, and inclusion and welfare. So there's a link up there in the NIGD and Discord if anyone wants to submit any questions ahead of time, and I'll drop the link in on Wednesday. So yeah, do come along. Give us your questions. There's no other questions out there at the moment, so I think that's everything for now.
No worries. Look, folks, thanks very much for having me. Keelan, thanks for inviting me. Like I say, my emails are always open, so please fire me an email. Look, have a good day, folks, and appreciate you guys taking the time to listen to me rant on for a bit. Appreciate that.
Yeah, thanks everyone for coming.
Thanks, everybody.
Cheers.
See you later. Bye.